Hi, I'm Neil McCormick. Welcome to the Bridge podcast, Music, War and Peace, where we discuss the power of music to address such matters of life and death, of politics and protest, of war and of peace. You could say my guest for this episode was born into this musical conversation and has been carrying it on his whole life. The great Nigerian band leader, Femi Kuti.
Welcome, Femi. So you're talking to us via Zoom from Lagos, is that right? Or where are you?
Yeah, from my house, it's about 5 minutes from Lagos. It's just between the borders, between Lagos and a place called Ogun State.
Let me supply a bit of background for the uninitiated. Femi is the son of trailblazing Nigerian Afrobeats pioneer and political activist Fela Kuti, an astonishing character who really put the sounds of Western Africa into the modern popular music vernacular during the 1970s and 1980s before his death in 1997. As his eldest son, Femi started his own musical career as a teenager playing saxophone in his father's fantastic band Egypt 80, before striking out on his own in the late 80s with his band Positive Force. And it was well named because Femi has been a very positive force in his own right for decades now, making fantastic and funky, jazzy Afrobeats music, whilst also keeping politics and activism very much at the fore of everything he does. So that's a fine balance, really, because in a way, you're carrying on your father's legacy and you do really honor him in your shows, but you're making your own music with your own distinctive character, which is also very political, very tough, hard-hitting, and yet it's full of joy. So much to talk about. Your 12th album. Let's start with the balance in your music between political activism, lyrics with very strong, often very specific political messages, set to music full of rhythm and color and joy and positivity. So how do you strike that balance? What's the challenges involved?
When I was starting out, when I was much younger, I used to think about it as there was a drug for when you had malaria. Malaria is caused by mosquitoes biting you. And it's such a terrible, bitter pill. And to make children take this pill, you have to offer them a very sweet drink, like maybe Fanta or Sprite. And so I think of my music as that. So the music has to be very sweet, catchy, rhythms, all the things you say, but the message can be very hard and bitter. So to catch the audience subconsciously or consciously, it was a kind of formula to put together musically. And as I grew older, it seemed to be getting better as I progressed. And I think basically as well, it's music comes from a very happy place. And unfortunately, sometimes when the composer translates this, it might turn out sad. You might feel like crying because of the power. It's a very spiritual thing. So, but I think music is information and you need to really always translate it as you hear it. So I think where my music comes from a happy place because I really want things to be full of happiness, love, and things like that. Unfortunately, I have to sing about very tough topics. But I think deep down me, I want my music to be very happy.
Okay. Typically, when you're putting together a piece of music, what comes first, the message or the music?
Always the music. Sometimes in a dream, those are the best ones. Sometimes whilst I'm practicing, I hear a riff. Most times it's a horn riff. Then I start to, it's At the beginning, it used to be very joyful doing this. It started to become more difficult. It's like, I don't know how to put it. You go into like a kind of trance, and it's so stressful. It drains you. And sometimes I run away from going into that deep thought because then like, I have to keep on thinking a good guitar line, tenor guitar line. What is the best drum pattern to go with this riff? And it starts draining me, and I like, and when it's complete, it's like, ah, thank God it's over. Oh, then I run away from the next one. But as I get older, it gets more difficult. I, I, I I don't know if I used to enjoy going there. It used to be, especially there was a track, Bang, Bang, Bang. That was so joyful. Another one, No Place for My Dream. I really enjoyed composing those numbers. But sometimes it's just like, oh, I have to go through here again, this path again. Oh, I don't, very mixed feelings these days.
And what about writing lyrics? Do you sit down and say, right, this is going to be the lyric to this piece of music that I'm creating, or does it come with
No,
the flow of the music?
I listen to when it's partially or probably most times completed, then I think what bothers me most, what is what disturbs me internally in my mind most, and what should I say that will be that I'll be I can take off my chest or my mind, so politics don't expose them. Is this comes from when I wrote this song, Sorry, Sorry, in 1998. A lot of people were like, oh, why are you always so bitter? And I said, look, from what I see, the politicians and the soldiers are same actors, same players. And now it's 24 years after. I'm saying, am I not right? You see, they have made the politicians have made our situation worse than it was before. So politics, I'm saying now, politics has exposed the true character and nature of the politician. So I always think about what bothers me most. And sometimes in the album, there are many, I think are two or three songs that are not that political, but very social topics, like Work on Myself, which is like the state of my mind where I'm like, wow, seems the political songs are not getting me anywhere. What can I do? Because I'm beginning to be very frustrated as a performer, saying the same thing over and over, and I'm not feeling the change. So a while ago, last year in 2023, my daughter was having an operation whilst I was doing the recording. And I said, maybe my maths is wrong. Maybe it's not about changing people. Maybe it's really about focusing on myself. So I wrote the track, Work on Myself. So I can always I see an individual as a universe. We're all universes in our own right. We have our thoughts, our feel, and probably if we say to work in the change within us, maybe that's the step we should be taking and not the other way around. So this album has a lot to do with more, what will I call it, internal review of my life. And so you hear from most of the tracks there. It's like saying, maybe I have to think of a new math to get things sorted out in my life.
I mean, it's a very powerful album. And I saw your show at Coco, absolute pleasure in London. And you do, it's an incredible balance, really. There's so few people even address politics, and people think of it as a dour subject, protest music. But there's been great soulful protest music over the years. It's music that can lift the spirits because you really are, all facing things together and crowds singing things together. There's a great unity in that.
Yeah.
And that's really what your shows are about.
Yeah, I think basically everybody, it's a global problem, politics. But I think radio stations and the way the way the world is set in the industry is they kind of shy away from too political because of people who sponsor adverts on the radios or TV, and the way they don't want a revolutionary kind of young youth. So make it about bling bling, girls, muscles, and make it very subtle, make it completely the opposite of what we are doing or what should be in the forefront of our discussions on a daily basis. I think if this was in the forefront of our discussions, musically, arts, and everything, then people will be forced to address these issues with more tediously and more commitment. In Africa, for instance, healthcare, um, feeding, um, great universities. Why do we all have to leave this great continent that has everything to go to Europe? And it's a kind of modern day slavery where you arrest yourself, take yourself, and go and slave somewhere else instead of getting your own home sorted out. And the way I see it is, I don't see how how do you make your neighbor's house better than your house? So, and I keep telling people, Europe didn't even arrive where it got to overnight. There are two wars already. First World War, Second World War, and this is just recently, if you go far back. Europe fought so many wars. America fought a civil war. So they didn't just arrive there to make things work. People fought for change, and we are running away. I'm not saying we should fight, but if we even use this historical facts as a platform to, hey, we don't need to go to war, but we need to address these issues. They are too important for us, our children, and for future generations. So this is what my music is basically saying.
Okay.
Yeah, politically, it is tough because you don't get the kind of radio play you want. And the way the minds of the youths are, how would I say it, are set today is you are just supposed to think in a certain way. I want to be rich. I want girls. I want a good time. Nothing matters. And, and then you grow up and you see you've wasted 20 years of your life and then you want to deal with those issues. When you are young, it is when you are young, you're agile and you have the energy to start running up and down. Now, it's so difficult for me to do the things I could do 20 years ago. So all my energy really goes on stage. But after I tour, I'm like completely drained, you know, and I'm going on tour in America in summer. And maybe because I'm not feeling too well now, but it's like, another tour. You know, my body's like protesting. I don't want to go, but you have to go, you know, because we put in a lot of energy for every gig because, and we have to because it's not to make it fun, to make the audience, to get the attention of the audience and make them really feel what you're saying. Like you said, it's a very hard topic. Music has to be very danceable, sweet, melodious, all those things.
I'd like to, I mean, I'll come back to this because there's other things I want to talk about, but there has been an opening up of awareness of African music, Afro pop, Afrobeat, African stars for the first time, really. I mean, there was a time when it was only your father, really, that was known over here. And then there's a lot of chipping away, but suddenly we have actual African pop superstars like Burna Boy and Kid and others you've worked with, some of them. Does that change the receptivity to your own music?
Well, I wouldn't say it was just my father. Don't forget there was Mariam Makeba, there was Hugh Masakela, my father, and then Yusundo, Angelique Kidjo, Baba Mal. There was a period, a lot of African artists were coming through France into England and then America. So this was a very 90s was a very good time for African musicians as well. Right now, yes, it's more like African pop and like stars coming out. Well, I don't think it changes what it's very. It's good for the economy. It's good for the young people. It's good for the youth. It's good for all this. What I will be afraid about is if we don't encourage young people to play musical instruments. This just lasts a time in your life. The older you get, the next generation is going to be asking, okay, yes, what have you got to offer me musically? So that's why a Miles Davis will always be important. A John Coltrane will be important. Classical music, whether we like it or not, when you want to go to school, you have to start by studying classical music. So it's embedded in the system. If we don't quickly start to put things in place in Africa, then we're going to lose everything to just go fly away with the wind. So we have to encourage young people to, music is like studying medicine or law or engineering. It's not just fun and games. It's a whole it's an industry that has to be preserved. So in Europe and America, you have hundreds, if not thousands, of bases that come out. I mean, they're learning the piano at 5, 3. I mean, by 10, we're already becoming a master. And so Africa has to see it in this perspective as well, or else what we're seeing now is everybody just wants to go into the computer, find a beat, good melody line. Wow. And yeah, for now it's okay. You're young. But the older you get, the next generation is going to look for their own guy or beautiful girl who they're going to follow. And you'll be too old when you start getting gray hair, when your muscles start to flaps come everywhere. What do you do then? The only reason you become relevant is when you have something musical to offer. Like maybe you are a great trumpeter or a great guitarist. So the young people always say, wow, did you hear the chords Mr. Kuti played? Or, oh, wow, did you hear that riff? And that's all you're going to have till your dying days to still be relevant in the industry. Young people will always come and go. I remember Bang, Bang, Bang. We're everywhere, every town. Everybody wanted to hear Bang, Bang, Bang. But the older I got, if I wasn't playing a musical instrument, I'm sure probably I'll be long gone. And a lot of musicians listen to me because of the albums. Oh, did you hear that horn line? Oh, did you hear the beat? Oh, he's keeping the tradition. Wow, wow. So because of my musical ability is why it's, I wouldn't say easy, but why I can still have a kind of impact with the so much going on in the world. I don't think it can be lost because of, I said it's spiritual. Music will always defend integrity at the end of the day.
Let's talk about those origins. Then you learned the saxophone when you were young. That was your chosen instrument. You grew up in London as well as Lagos,
No,
and
never
then
London.
not London.
Never
No,
London.
I thought UK. Okay, I
I was
apologize.
just, I was born there and dragged back to Nigeria.
Okay, and well, there's plenty of people dragged the other way. um, you learned saxophone. You were good enough to be a member of your father's band as a teenager. You were, joined Egypt 80, this incredible song ensemble. So, what was that like? Potentially a baptism of fire. You know, you're in with one of the greatest bands on your
Wow.
continent at a young age.
I was very frightening. My father was such a huge person in front of me. It was really scary. It was I used to shake. I used to shake like a leaf when he gives me my part because he didn't take any rubbish from anybody. You have to be so attentive and good. No mistakes, you know. It was very scary. And then I started to get used to it. I remember taking my first solo at the University of Ife. I was, wow, I don't even know how I did. My legs were trembling, you know, not very good memories. Not many. I think I was too scared to. I mustn't do anything wrong. I mustn't upset my father. Wow. But slowly, after a while, I said to acclimatize. But the negative there was being Fela's son. His fan base just kept saying, "Oh, you're the best, blah. Oh, you're so good." And when my father was wrongfully jailed, and I moved back to my mother, my maternal mother was like, she's very British. And she was, "You've been in this house for 2 weeks and you have not picked up your horn once. What kind of bloody musician do you think you are? You bloody sod." And she was just going on. It was so true. I cried. And nobody could talk to Fela's son like that. So how dare I was angry and how dare you? No, but it was so true. But that was the talking to I needed in my life. And that completely changed me as a person. And I think that she saved my life there. I think I'll have ended up so arrogant, Fela's son. And then people would say, so what? I think, well, she brought me down to earth. I think I always give her that credit.
Wow. I mean, that's interesting because there is maybe in roots music and folk traditions, there is traditions of families handing music down. In pop culture, it's not that respected, not so much respected, and there's all that talk of nepo babies and so on. You struck out on your own and really carved out a career. Did you have to do that? Did you have to make that space for yourself?
Yeah, because my thinking was everybody wanted me to take over my father, even he. But my thoughts were like, what if I died before him? So where is the inheritance? Where is my life? Where is Femi Kuti in all this? I couldn't find myself. It was I dressed like him, did everything like him. Anywhere he went, I had to be there. And so I didn't have my life. And when I left, it became worse because his fan base was so critical of everything I did. They hated the fact that I left and they didn't forgive me for, wow. I think some still hold it against me. But I think over the years, I've proven to them that, yeah. And they always made it like a competition. And I've never been able to understand what is the comparison about. This is my father. I was telling my son the other day, I said, you know what? It's kind of really annoying. You are comparing me with my father. He's my father. He's my father. So, I love this man and you are comparing me. I didn't set out to be in competition. This is not a boxing match where we're going into the ring. So you see again, the educational system is wrong. Why don't you see the beauty of the legacy? I hate people comparing my son to me. What I see is, I just see this beautiful guy playing beautiful music. And it gives me so much joy. I'm like, wow. And I'm so thankful to be able to witness it. So where's the competition? And I see a lot of my father, and I think, I'll say, wow, if my great-grandfather was playing music, oh, what if my father was even alive? I start to dream and start to come up with all these ideas in my head, and it's all beautiful. And then somebody just say, you can never be better than your father, sort a downer.
Also, your father suffered, persecution in Nigeria. There was that terrible camp raid in the late 70s when your grandmother was killed and he was severely beaten. In the 80s, he was arrested and sent to prison for 20 months. Now, you've very much, it hasn't stopped you forcing your own political and highly critical of local Nigerian politics and African situations. So was that ever a concern to you? Have you worried about the consequences because of you were right up seeing what happened to your father. Have you or do you worry about the political persecution?
Yes, I was arrested several times with him. I moved to his house. I got beaten a few times too. And when I set out on my own, I did worry about it, but I think I had to take it off my mind and not think about it. It was like just going onto the expressway and Don't think about don't think about just drive, just go. Because if those thoughts will discourage you, and then and you will not do what you have to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big issue because persecution tries to create self censorship.
Yes, you get scared and or you go into exile. And then, I mean, I would have hated that I was in England or America thinking about Africa's problem. You know, you have to be here. You have to really feel the pain. It's so different when you are here singing about what you know firsthand than singing it, somebody telling you, oh, there's no electricity. Oh, I'm experiencing it. I'm experiencing bad economy, bad healthcare, even where I can afford it. The fact that hundreds of people can't afford it. So what? If I'm rich and my whole surrounding is poor, my riches don't mean anything. Because my riches cannot help even 1/10 of the people that are poor. So what is the riches for them? So we have to create, there has to be balance, and Africa is far from that.
Do you feel like an ambassador for your culture, your country, your continent when you are out in the world?
No, I don't. I just think I'm Femi Kuti. I, I I don't see. I'll probably say I'm an I am an ambassador for peace and love, because then if you restrict me to just Africa, when you go to San Francisco, last time I was there, there was so much poverty there. People on the streets. Never seen so much poverty in America before in my life. It was terrible 2 years ago. Um, I go to Europe these days. So many homeless people. These things affect me. And like I said, the politics I sing, it's not restricted to just Nigeria. It's everywhere. It's a global problem that we're facing, that politics has really failed the human race. And a lot of Europeans come and tell me they, they feel what I'm saying because it affects them. A lot of people come and tell me that listening to my music gives them the energy to live their lives on a daily basis. Somebody said to me in France the other day that as a youth, it was my music he had to listen to all the time, and it took him to where he is. So these are not African people relating to what I'm saying. So I don't think I see myself. I just think the bottom line is how to become a good human being. And when you start to put those barriers, then you are talking about you are exposing yourself to racism or ethnic division. And in Nigeria right now, there is a lot of tribal topics. You are not from the East, you are from the West. And the politicians are capitalizing on this. We have forgotten the issues we are supposed to be discussing about, the issues that brought us to where we are today, and we are being so petty. I mean, it's revolting. We are so petty that if I had my 10-year-old child discussing like that, I would be so heartbroken. These are grown-up adults, you know. We don't discuss issues, and when we even discuss the issues, it becomes tribal again, you know. When my father was fighting, he fought people from his town. He spoke the truth, you know. And it was the people from his town, Abekuta, who burnt his house, killed his mother. So Fela wasn't tribalistic in any way. Fela wasn't racist. We didn't grow up in a racist environment. You know, he spoke about about Africanism, but he wasn't racist at all. He had so many European and American friends. And so this is my upbringing. I don't see myself as an African per se. Yes, I'm from Nigeria, blah, 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 blah. Well, I love to see myself as a human being first.
Okay, very good. Well, we live in challenging times, all of us human beings right now. The current American administration has taken a very negative approach to sending aid anywhere in the world, including Africa. You're going to tour over there. What do you make of the state of the world now? Do you feel that you're being part of an improvement, or are you just shouting in the wind?
The United Nations has not really solved any problem. You go to Somalia, you go to Congo. So I see they don't mind these problems persist because all these funds go in. So much funds go into all these conflict areas. Never solved. I don't know any problem that has been solved really totally. So I can understand if Trump is saying there's a lot of corruption in the aids America is sending everywhere. It's very possible. If he's saying that he wants to make sure this aid is delivered and well distributed, I think that's very important. If he says he's going to stop it totally, that's a different thing. But if he's saying it's because of corruption, I can understand it. Because a lot of people capitalize on these conflicts to enrich themselves, whether we like it or not. So I know for a fact, because I've been in the field, there was a time I went to Maiduguri, and I went there twice, and I said I would never go again, because I went there and so hundreds of women, malnourished women feeding malnourished children. So I go there as an ambassador, and I cannot even help. I didn't go with food. And all these women are like, help me, help me. And I'm like, I'm crying inside, and I'm looking. They had no water. It cost about roughly, let me just say, $1,000 to provide water for 500,000 people or so. And no rich person in Nigeria, with all the riches Nigeria had, to provide water so easy. And I went there and I'm like, why are you sending me to this conflict area with no tools, no money, no food? Okay, what am I supposed to do? To tell the world these people are suffering. Okay, so what? We already knew this. How do we solve this problem? So issues are not being solved. They are highlighting, but everybody keeps donating, but they're not solved. So when do we solve these issues? When does a human being solve these conflicts? Do you remember We Are the World? Ethiopia, the Ethiopian conflict. Ethiopia, look at Ethiopia today. I think what happened then was all this money went and they forgot to take water for the milk. So they, again, how can you think of something so huge and you forget to bring water for the milk? So the milk got spoiled, blah, 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 I am of the opinion that everything has to be revisited and done properly, not stopped. I don't agree with it should be stopped to all these areas, but it has to be addressed. And all these conflicts, there has to be everlasting solutions to all these problems. We can't keep on going on waiting for the next conflict.
Well, then what part can music play in this?
We're talking about it. We are talking about it because we're musicians, and we're talking about it. So hopefully somebody who has the means to change, a politician will really hear what we're saying one day and they will start to move. You see, again, whether we like it or not, change is inevitable. So we either do the right thing or we keep on going around in circles and things will get worse. And whether we like it or not, if we think it's not going to affect you, sooner or later it will come to your doorstep as well. Like the migrant crisis in Europe. When everybody was attacking Iraq, and then Syria, and then people started to walk all those miles into Europe. So nobody believed people could make that journey and walk into Hungary and all these countries. And then it just saw hundreds of thousands of people at their borders. See, now it's become a major problem in Europe. People traveling by sea from Africa running away from the problems. Europe and America should be saying, no, Africa needs to fix it. Oh, we can't just let our children risk their lives in the sea. Hundreds of them die in the sea because our governments are failing. But Europe and America, Asia, still doing business with these corrupt leaders. Where is the justification of your humanity? How can you these leaders are bad and you're doing business with them? It doesn't add up. You see, big conflict of interest. And then they all talk about, they're also religious and also God, 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 God. And we all see all these nasty things going on. So, you see, if we don't quickly, where everybody's talking about climate change, we don't quickly address it, very soon, Mother Earth will have had enough. And the way I look at climate change, for instance, we are throwing all these bombs. Let's look at it from this perspective. Mother Earth has a head, the head of somebody, and somebody keeps knocking your head. Come, that's a bomb. Boom, boom, boom. And you start to get a headache, then a migraine. Soon, you're going to have a big sore on your head, and then your head is going to break into two. And that's Earth. They talk to us about climate change, but they still make all the bombs. They still throw all the bombs. They still do all the killings. And then, climate change. You see, doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. The world doesn't make sense.
Well, the world doesn't make sense. So the question, I guess, to where we are is because it can be hard if you have a conscience and an interest to feel whether what you do is making a valuable contribution. You've spent your entire life on the front line of singing about political issues and on the big level, war and peace, love and hate, and on the small level, about micro situations within your own life. You spend that. Does it make a difference? Can music change the world for the better?
Yes, at least it soothes our souls. Where would probably be very violent. I picked up the trumpet because I couldn't be violent, so I wanted an Uzi, just kill everybody. So I thought the trumpet was going to make me go, kill everybody. I saw my musical instruments as a weapon. So the trumpet made me very cool. Such a difficult instrument. Wow. Changed my perspective completely. Made me so cool. So I think music heals the soul. And that's why we have music. Because if there was no music, probably there would be a lot more violence, and it would be impossible to even step out of your home these days. So music is medicine in that respect too.
Well, I guess that's a good place to leave it. Thank you very much for doing this, Femi.
Thank you.
Good luck with the new album.
Thank you.
And
thank you so much.
I will see you when the next time you're touring around.
It was a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to The Bridge Podcast, Music, War and Peace, with me, Neil McCormick, and my guest, Femi Kuti.